It's time for Twig. This week in Google, we are down a Leo Laporte and up a Molly White this week. Jeff Jarvis is here, and so am I, Paris Martineau. Coming up on the show, we talk about how the kids are doing online, Trump's new cryptocurrency effort, Strawberry, and what's up with Flappy Bird. It's all coming up next on Twig.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is This Week in Google, episode 786, recorded September 18th, 2024. Now that's a Wikifoot. It's time for Twig, This Week in Google, the show where we talk about a lot of things and sometimes Google. Leo continues to be out, and I, Paris Martineau, am your hostess with the mostest this week. You know who's also here? You may know him as the former director of the Tau Knight Center for Entrepreneurial Journalism at the Newark School of Journalism at CUNY. It's Jeff Jarvis.
Hey, Paris. Hi, boss. Welcome back. Vacation.
Hi, thank you.
Did you wear your sunscreen?
I did wear sunscreen. I didn't get burnt once, which is actually incredible because I'm very pale. I did get a lot of bug bites, and I did pet a lot of Croatian cats. And for that, at least the latter part, I'm thankful. Also joining us is the magnificent Molly White.
Yay!
Hey, Molly. Great to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
Molly is best known for her research and coverage of cryptocurrency. She also runs the website Web3 is Going Just Great and is a prolific Wikipedia editor. It's great to have you.
Great to be back.
And I guess to kick off the show, we were thinking about playing an AI-generated podcast that Jeff has figured out how to make using Notebook LM, but the podcasting gods have stymied us. They will not allow it to happen this week.
Actually, it's because it's going to replace us, and Benito is worried about that, and he's performed a job action by refusing to play the audio. He's acting as if he can't, but I know what's really going on. He's trying to protect his job and his future, and I don't blame him.
Next week, I promise. Next week.
The fourth box that's going to pop up here is Scabby the Rat, is going to be joining the podcast. Instead, I guess let's kick off with talking about Google briefly. I know, horrifying, crazy on this show. Just today, Google won, surprisingly, a fight to scrap a 1.7 billion EU antitrust fine over ads. Today, Google convinced the European Union court to overturn this huge fine that had been levied against it over Google's advertising practices. The victory comes after Google lost a separate antitrust cases in Europe and the US. It's kind of interesting. This is like one of the many things going on right now with Google in the antitrust world. In this particular case, the European Commission had applied this fine back in 2019 after they found that Google had used its search engine dominance to kind of impose like restrictive contracts that had blocked rivals from selling search ads on websites that Google doesn't own, which is kind of a relatively small market. And on Wednesday, the General Court of the EU upheld that like most of those findings in the original court case were fair, but that the commission had wrongly assessed some of the contractual causes it deemed unfair and basically threw it out, which is a small victory for Google. I don't know. Jeff, what do you think about this?
Well, I'm confused too. So Google stopped these activities in 2016. So I think it was all just slap on the wrist afterwards. So I guess it was, well, you're not supposed to do that. We're not doing it. And you're not charging us for it, so next. As Kamala Harris would say, next
how
question.
many millions of dollars do you think people have spent on legal fees for this? It's ridiculous, or I guess millions of euros because it's Europe.
It really is. One story that I put in below is that, I didn't know this, is that the two champions of antitrust in Europe are leaving, Vestager and Breton.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Vestager is huge.
Exactly. And so they're both stepping down, and Breton has been, tough on Musk and such. So that altogether, I don't know whether this bodes anything about European anti-technology regulation and legislation. We'll see.
Did the article that you're mentioning say as to why they're stepping down, or just simply retiring? Or
I think they were just tired.
I mean, yeah,
Well,
it's
Aren't we
been
all?
crazy.
Slaying dragons is not an easy thing to do.
It's also interesting, I think just before we hopped on to record this show, Reuters reported, I didn't even have time to put it in the rundown, that Google, for a different EU antitrust thing that's going on, Google had offered to sell part of its ad tech business to kind of quash the lawsuit. And this is notable because Google, to my knowledge, hasn't offered to sell any part of its business before. But that wasn't enough. They didn't take the deal.
Jeez. Because I'm thinking at some point, I'm curious what you both think. At some point, the break 'em up hymnal, companies will resist that. But there is an argument that companies can get more value out of their stock. And I haven't seen any talk of investors saying, yeah, actually, I'd like to own a few Googles. But it'd be interesting if they did sell off part of the ad business. I would think that would be a good step. I wonder which part.
I think, so this is from an article by Reuters. It says, Google took a major step this year to end an EU antitrust investigation with an offer to sell its advertising marketplace AdX, but European publishers rejected the proposal as insufficient. It is part of Google's lucrative advertising business. It was attracting regulatory scrutiny last year following a complaint from the European Publishers Council. The European Commission subsequently charged Google with favoring its own advertising services. This is opening its fourth case against Google. Google has never before offered to sell an asset in an antitrust case, according to 3 lawyers involved in antitrust cases, says Reuters. Publishers rejected Google's proposal because they want it to divest more than just AdX to address conflicts of interest due to its presence in almost all levels of the ad tech supply chain, the people said. They said that the EU's antitrust officer was aware of this offer. It's interesting, Jeff, because to your point, I kind of felt the same thing at first. Like, yeah, maybe investors would want to own like 4 Googles and 3 Amazons, but I need to look it up. But I believe the Wall Street Journal's Heard on the Street column recently, which is kind of like a financial analyst column, had something on this just this week that said markets are actually reacting negatively to the idea of Google being broken up, which again seems a little obvious, but kind of interesting.
I don't know if it's to be broken up or just going through, walking through a lot of glass.
Yeah,
I think Google's going to go through a lot of hell coming up, and I mean, AdX is an important part of the business, the Google Ad Exchange, and to offer to give that up, I think is a fairly big deal. But it's interesting, Paris. I don't know how. I've been trying to think of historical cases here where a company preempts antitrust action by settling the first, saying, okay, we'll split ourselves up in this way, which is what they tried to do here. So that's, to me, what Google's saying is, okay, we're starting to negotiate.
Yeah. And it's interesting they're starting to negotiate in this way. I mean, I wonder if we'll ever see a world where like a Meta decides like, okay, I'll give up WhatsApp, but not Instagram or something like that. I mean, I think they obviously closed the door on that when they, in 2018 or whatever, decided to integrate them all to one another so that they kind of cannot be broken up. But it's interesting.
Yeah. So there's big Google news actually this week.
Big Google news. Who would have guessed? Talking about it on This Week in Google. The other thing that caught my attention, given my kind of new beat focus, which, Molly, for context, I've recently kind of pivoted towards covering online child safety and all these various different bills and legislative efforts to kind of rein in various tech companies relating to kids. And on, I believe, yesterday, Instagram announced that it was going to be doing a bunch of different changes like around teenage accounts. And basically what this is a thinly veiled direct response to all of the crazy lawsuits and legislative pressure that Meta and all these other social media companies have been facing over the last year and a half from concerned parents and advocates of online child safety. Some of this, as we've talked about before, is kind of a moral panic, but at a certain point, it gets to a volume where a company like Meta can't really ignore it, especially when we're starting to see legislation like COSA move through the Senate and into the House. So yesterday, Instagram announced that basically they're rolling out these things called teen accounts. As we all know, it's something like
It sounds like, here's your kid's record player. Enjoy
here's
it.
your baby record player.
Yeah.
Instagram for mom.
It's got really big buttons on it.
Yeah.
It's in orange and pink. Yeah.
Yeah, the teen Instagram account will stick to the side of a building so that you can take Instagram reels. Basically, what this is supposed to do is right now, Instagram says, oh, we don't have any users that are 13 under. We all know that's kind of untrue. Kids lie and, put their age as adults on there as well. However, Instagram does say, yeah, we've got child users 13 and older for sure. And right now, what this new change is going to do is users that are 13 to 17 are going to automatically have their accounts put in this teen account bucket. That means their accounts won't be public facing. Instead, they'll be set to private. They will also, if they're 16 and it's gonna, and if they're 16 and under, they will have a bunch of extra restrictions. In your Instagram Reels, Explore feed, you won't see as much content from people you don't follow. You won't be able to get DM requests from strangers. A lot of these are kind of direct responses. Yeah, a lot of these are direct responses from concerns parents and legislators have had, which is that I've got a 14-year-old that gets, 12 messages a day from pedophiles or whatever. But there's also I think kind of funny, a part of this new update was teen accounts will no longer have notifications from 10 p.m. to like 7 a.m. or something like that. And this is specifically,
Or is that configurable, or is that when Facebook thinks teens should be sleeping?
I think that's when Facebook thinks teens should be sleeping. Okay. But you know what I think this is? I thought this was interesting because I did a story a couple months ago about this new trend in like social media litigation, and it is really in vogue right now. And it's both like parents and states attorneys general and everybody is trying to come after companies like Meta and whatnot, saying like, oh, you're addicting kids. And they're using this kind of innovative framing for product liability stuff. But one of the suits that is particularly graphic deals with I feel like she was maybe like 12 or something, a young child who had an Instagram account who their parent claims like she got addicted to it and spent all night, every night, up awake, could never sleep, was always checking Instagram. And they were kind of targeting, I guess, the notifications as well as the algorithmic feed. And I thought it was a bit silly when I read it, but it is interesting that litigation like that is resulting in policy changes in companies like this.
Well,
yeah, to some extent. I mean, a lot of it, I think, has really sort of concerning implications around, like, how are they doing this age verification? Is it teens continuing to self-identify? And in that case, are they just going to start self-identifying as 18 instead of 16? Which seems like the kind of likely outcome there. Or are we going to start seeing actual age verification software deployed, which then has very concerning ramifications as far as online privacy and the ability to anonymously, exist online? A lot of it, I think, really does fall into the moral panic end of things, where people are saying, this is just the latest thing that is, twisting our children. It's no longer Dungeons and Dragons and rock music. It's Instagram and TikTok. And, to some extent, I always wonder when I see lawsuits like the one that you just explained, where, a child is staying up all night scrolling Instagram. it's interesting that the parents decided that that was an Instagram problem versus a parenting problem that needed to be addressed.
If I may ask, since I'm Gramps here, how old were each of you when you came on to what we would now think of in any broad definition as social media?
I don't know exactly.
I was in high school, I think, when I joined Facebook. I'm trying to think. Yeah,
I
beyond
feel like
that,
I was in late
college,
middle school
maybe.
or something when I joined Facebook.
So looking back, do you think that was a fine thing? Do you think that, gee, who would let me do this? Did your parents freak? Did you love it and rely on it? Did you find it boring? I'm just curious if you can remember back, because it's easier for you two than me. What did you think about social media in your youth?
Well, I do think it's interesting because our generation is probably like the last chopper out of Nam with regards to social media use in a way.
Yes.
Like I remember using Facebook, but it was like the Facebook where you were posting to your Facebook profile, or you'd go over to your friend's wall and post there. I was using a browser on my laptop or a desktop computer largely to access social media, which in my day was like mostly like Tumblr or maybe Facebook on the browser. And I remember in high school getting a Twitter account, but again, that was really mostly on the computer. I think that there's probably
pre-smartphone, right? That was all pre-smartphone. So
yeah, more or less, or at least
it
was certainly adolescents having smartphones, if nothing else. Yeah, I mean, when I was around that age, my parents did prohibit me to some extent from having like MySpace accounts, which were still, that was sort of the precursor at that point. And those, I think there were a lot more sort of those like safety concerns that you might be talking to strangers as a 12-year-old. Whereas
I was definitely
Facebook,
talking to strangers as a 12-year-old.
yeah, so was I, but I was on IRC.
Yeah, I was on Omegle. It was not good.
But yeah, at the time when I first joined Facebook in high school, it was still the Facebook where you were just friends with your real life friends. It wasn't, every person on earth or strangers trying to add you as a friend. And you're right. It was still the era where people asked if you were online, which I feel like people don't do anymore because everyone's always online. It's, you don't ask, hey, are you on anymore? So there was that disconnecting from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're never typing BRB because you are always there.
AFK. Yeah.
No, I mean, I think that your point, Molly, is a really good one. And one of the most interesting things I think about this whole online child safety boom in terms of like legislation or even these corporate responses is it is in many ways or most ways a classic moral panic. However, unlike, the moral, thank you.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Exactly.
I do.
It's a classic moral panic, but it's not, it is taken off at a level I feel like we haven't seen in a while. You didn't see this with D&D. You didn't see this with people freaking out over the crossword back in the day. It is resulting in real legislation on a state and federal level, regardless of whether it's tethered to reality, which is
also part of the. I think the meta action here is that there have been threats in various jurisdictions to forbid people under 18 from having any social media. So, which is ridiculous, and I think actually would in the U.S. would not succeed in the Supreme Court, but in Australia it could. And so I think this is preemptive as well. Say, okay, uncle, we'll do something.
Yeah, and I think there is some historical precedent for it. I mean, the sort of think of the children moral panics do go back a really long time, and maybe a good example that would be more comparable in terms of scale is the violent video games panic.
Oh, yes.
Around sort of the Columbine era, which did ultimately result in some bills at least getting to Congress, if not through Congress. That seems like maybe one of the more recent examples that's perhaps more relevant than Dungeons and Dragons. But I think a lot of it just comes down to sort of new scary technology and also the urge to blame something else for really difficult problems in society. I think it's really hard to solve the problem of teen mental health, for example, or teenagers, developing eating disorders or whatever the particular area of concern may be. And it's really easy to just say, oh, look, Instagram's showing my kids skinny models. If they would just stop doing that, everything would be fine. When
Right.
I think in reality, it's quite a lot more difficult than that. And in some cases, I think reducing children's access to social media can have the opposite effects in a lot of cases, where sometimes that's where kids are going for support or to get information that they can't get access to, because of a protective family, or, where they're living has, school systems that are not doing the kinds of education that children maybe need. And so, it's worrisome, I think, to see some of those trends towards preventing children from using social media or from using it in specific ways. That concerns me a lot.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of a perfect storm of this like moral panic, won't you think of the children that you just described, plus just like general anti-tech animus. Like everyone everywhere is mad at tech companies and social media platforms for something and are trying to find something to sink their teeth in. And the kind of Venn diagram of these two issues has really taken off, it seems.
And I think the sort of third circle in the Venn diagram of moral panics around, transgender rights and, they're turning our kids trans, like you hear people say, as well as access to, we see like book banning around LGBTQ content or content that has to do with racial diversity. And so I think there is this sort of third arm to it as well, where, in a world where people are trying to control children and the types of content that children are able to be exposed to, that's more effective if they don't have access to, the wide range of information and material that's available on these platforms.
I would be remiss if I didn't plug my book, because I just got the hardback.
Nice cover.
There it is. Thank you. Which I do go back, and I think you're right, Molly. It goes to violent video games. There were hearings galore about that. Also television. The Surgeon General, just as now the Surgeon General is crying panic. The Surgeon General was involved and assigned to do things on television and radio before that, and Nickelodeons before that. We've gone through this a million times, and we never have any sense of media. Never have a sense of history about this because they want this is a good story for them.
I do think also one aspect of this. Sorry, Jeff, what were you saying?
Which Australia is looking. It's low. It's I think line 112 is looking to set a statutory age limit between the ages of 14 and 16 where you just can't use it at all.
Can't use social media at all?
That's what they're thinking about.
And I think part of the interesting thing about that is this opens up all of these questions of how are any of these platforms going to determine how old anyone is, especially if you're talking about like a 14 or 15-year-old. They don't have an ID. First of all, I'd hope that you're not having to put your ID in to access Facebook to begin with. But how are these companies going to go about doing this? In the case of these new Instagram teen accounts, Meta is hoping to tackle this with AI, which doesn't sit right with me either. This is from a Wall Street Journal article about it. Earlier next year in the US, Meta plans to use its adult classifier AI model to determine which Instagram account holders are really teens.
Oh, what could go wrong?
What could go wrong? The company has already used the model to prevent teens from accessing adult features on Facebook dating. Adam Mosseri was talking to the Journal about this and said it's AI models that predict age aren't perfect, but it's trained on an account's interactions with other users and content, among other signals, to determine whether a person's birth date is false. Which I think is even more concerning because, I mean, then, one, I assume what's probably going to happen, because kids are smart, is they will figure out how to give off signals that they're 35, maybe posting about taxes or something. But It's just, it seems like a slippery slope.
Walt Mossberg, who was 77 years old, keeps talking on Facebook about what a Swiftie he is. What if he gets kicked off?
Meanwhile, when I was like 13 years old editing Wikipedia, I had many people think that I was like a 60-year-old man. So I feel like there's a lot of problems there. I've also seen proposals for age. I forget what the word is. There's like age verification and age something else that's like the fuzzier version of it. And I've seen proposals for that involve using facial recognition to try to take a picture of you and determine from that picture if you're above or below the age threshold. And of course, that suffers from all of the massive issues around facial recognition technology, where it's incredibly inaccurate, especially when you're trying to target really small age ranges. Like the difference between a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old is often not that facially different.
Racial issues.
Plus the racial bias, gender bias. It's just like really not good. And so there are a lot of platforms that are sort of promising to do this sort of less quote unquote invasive version of these age verification processes and then kick you over to a more, official one where you'd have to submit proof of your age if they can't verify you in the first way or if there's an error. And yeah, it's just like, I don't think I want Facebook to have my facial scans or my identification necessarily.
It's also like, I don't want some company out there generally to have a record of my identity paired with the sites and apps I'm trying to access.
Right.
I went to a conference couple weeks ago about kind of these various issues like child online safety legislation, as well as like online sexual exploitation. And of course, what ended up happening is much of the conference was about moral panic over children having access to pornography online, Calif. And one big thing, I went in to go sit on an age verification panel, and I was expecting it to talk more about practical solutions relating to, the sort of issues we just talked about. And instead, it was all about porn verification services. And they went into detail about how the state of Louisiana is doing this, because I believe they're one of the states that has a ban on being able to access porn websites unless you're of a certain age. And in that case, they have a third-party service or app provider that if you want to access a porn site, you have to go in, upload your ID. They give you a string, and then you have to put that string in the porn website. And it's like, nobody wants any of that.
Jeez. Well, the UK is going to do the same thing. The online safety. I can see a story here popping up, Paris, because I think if you look at what's happening there, it's not just protecting children. It's that anyone who wants porn, as in Louisiana, will have to do it. And the privacy violations. This is going to violate privacy legislation all over the creation.
Yeah, and now you have this huge database of every person who has access to porn website. And if we know one thing about databases of personal information, it's that they leak like crazy. And so I feel like it's just a matter of time before there's the first scandal around that too.
Absolutely. Among all this, a House panel advanced the Kids Online Safety Act today, getting it one step closer to maybe coming up to a vote in the House, which is a bit concerning. This is a bill that has had a lot of pushback from online privacy experts and, concerned people on the internet generally, but that has made it through the Senate already and moved to the House because of concern from these advocacy groups and, general moral panic. It's got bipartisan support going into the House too, which is a bit concerning.
And what you were saying before, Molly, it's where it's really damaging is the right is going to use this to go after trans rights.
Right.
And that's going to be
and anything else really that they decide that is unacceptable, abortion information, even access to information about racial justice or climate change or whatever it is. I mean, you can really weaponize a bill like this to target content relating to anything you want. And with the right makeup in the FTC or, whichever enforcer, it could be a really major issue, I think. And it's one of those things that, it has this really benign name, who doesn't want kids to be safe online? But then when you actually look at the details of the bill, you realize that this is really something quite different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess while we're on the subject, there was this article in the Wall Street Journal this week that I thought was kind of interesting. There have been all these different bills going on in states around the nation to ban smartphone uses in schools. And I feel like it's fairly uncontroversial up to a level. I can understand why you wouldn't want to have a kid looking at their smartphone, in the middle of their U.S. history exam or whatever. However, there's now been kind of a bit of a movement on that, where parents are trying to ban children from accessing all screens in schools, including their Chromebooks that they use to access textbooks, or iPads that they use for in-school assignments. And I thought this was just, honestly,
I'm screaming.
so
I hadn't seen it till you put it in the rundown. I'm screaming about this.
It's baffling.
This is Luddite. This is just ridiculous.
Quite literally. Parents told the Wall Street Journal reporter that teachers and principals say a lot of classroom instruction consists of interactive games and can't be turned into worksheets. Not all schools purchase physical textbooks anymore. Many only offer them as ebooks. Shocking. Still, 5 parents told this reporter they've switched their kid to private or charter schools, which still use a pen and paper as a result. It's something
odd. Screen demonization. Yeah. Sorry, Molly.
Yeah. It's just such a, when you think about that and the sort of obvious ramifications of that, you end up with now you have kids who don't know how to use technology responsibly. Right. I feel like one of the most important things that we can be doing in this day and age, as far as educating younger people, is teaching them how to be responsible technology users and how to vet information that they're accessing, to, use technology in a way that is productive and helpful to them and potentially even, part of a future career. And so now we're saying, okay, kids can't have smartphones. They can't have Chromebooks in their schools. They can't use social media. Now we're just going to end up with a bunch of people who are sort of unleashed on the internet at age 18 without any real understanding of how things work or how to navigate those waters, when it's at this point a crucial life skill.
It's the Amishization of American education, right? As if that somehow is preferable and beneficial. It's just ridiculous. This is going to sound like it's really off target, but I've been just freaked about the Lebanon story and the pagers. And you have this weird thing happening there now where all kinds of things are exploding. It's awful. It's terroristic, to my view, because of the panic that's going on now, legitimate panic. But what it means is people are not using any technology. They were using their pagers, and then they were told, no, use walkie-talkies, and then walkie-talkies exploded. And my wife just told me that solar panels exploded. And so
solar panels exploded?
That's what she said. I hadn't seen the story. She was just telling me, so maybe it was something on Twitter, but other technologies are exploding. So you really get to a weird thing going on here of technology puritanism or Luddism or Amishism or something for very, very different causes. But technology just suddenly is going to be made to look dangerous in all kinds of ways.
God, what a nightmare. Some of the videos coming out of that are just haunting.
It's a technology story for sure, too. It's, geez, how they manage to do it and trigger it and everything else. But yeah, absolutely. So it's we're going into an interesting time. And I come out at just the right time to write a book about why the internet is a good thing and why technology is okay.
At least you have paper versions and not just ebooks.
Yeah. But these things are converging against technology as the bugaboo of society.
All right, we'll get back to this in a minute. Let's throw to our good old friend Leo for a bit of an ad break.
Hey, let me interrupt just a moment. I know I'm on vacation, but I had to come back to tell you about Veeam. Veeam is the solution. If you hear every day, it's in the headlines, these companies, ransomware. Sometimes they even pay the ransomware ransom just to get their data back. They're not using Veeam. Without your data, your customers' trust turns to digital dust. I wrote a little poem. That's why Veeam's data protection and ransomware recovery ensures that you can secure and restore your enterprise data wherever and whenever you need it, no matter what happens. They're the number one leader globally in digital resilience. In fact, Veeam, V-E-E-A-M, V-E-E-A-M, is trusted by over 77% of the Fortune 500 to keep their businesses running when digital disruptions like ransomware strike. You know what happens to the other 23%? You hear about them on Security Now, or you read about them in the headlines. They didn't have Veeam. Veeam lets you back up and recover your data instantly across your entire cloud ecosystem. With Veeam, you can proactively detect malicious activity, so maybe you don't get bit at all, right? You can remove the guesswork by automating your recovery plans and policies, so you know you'll feel safe, you'll sleep at night. Get real-time support from ransomware recovery experts should the worst happen. Data is the lifeblood of your business. Don't risk it. Get data resilient with Veeam. V-E-E-A-M. Go to Veeam.com to learn more. Veeam.com. We thank them so much for the support of This Week in Google. Now back to the show.
All right, we are back. Molly, I wanted to ask you a bit. Tell us about what happened this week with Trump's rolling out of his new cryptocurrency business, a subject that I chose for my mental health to stay far away from until just this moment.
You listened, so we don't have to, Molly.
Yeah, I'm sorry to ruin your blissful ignorance, I suppose. So Trump and his family, Donald, but also the younger Trumps, have decided to embrace a crypto project that is ostensibly a decentralized finance project. The details on it are somewhat scant as far as what the project will actually do. It sounds like it will be some sort of crypto borrowing and lending platform. But they have certainly been promoting it very heavily on Twitter and in the news and elsewhere. Some of the most interesting things about it are the people behind the project, which stems from an earlier crypto project that was called Doe Finance, which I covered on Web3 is going just great because it was hacked for about $2 million very shortly after it was launched. Whoopsie daisy. And some of the people behind the project are sort of odd characters themselves. One of them ran a pickup artist advice website, which is like
lovely.
For those who are lucky enough not to know what pickup artistry is, it's basically like how to make women love you.
How to scam those weak females.
Yeah, exactly.
Worshiping you by using tricks of the mind.
Incel meets crypto. Perfect.
Yeah, it's a great crossover right there. So very sort of odd group of people behind it beyond just the Trumps. And then, they've been promoting it. They had this live stream on Twitter a couple nights ago that was this interview between a crypto bro. He was like, I'm a proud crypto bro. And I was like, you're so brave. But, this like crypto guy who is very starstruck to be around Trump and made the interview kind of unpleasant to listen to, I think, because of it. He was just sort of like agape at the Trump presence. And, ostensibly they were supposed to launch the crypto project. Most of the talk was just about the recent attempt on Trump's life and then the subsequent man with the gun in the bushes at the golf course and sort of recounting the stories there. But they did eventually get around to talking about crypto very broadly. Trump didn't really go into any details about the project. He just talked about how his kids convinced him to like cryptocurrency.
Trump famously said on the live stream, crypto is one of those things we have to do, whether we like it or not. I have to do it, which is, a resounding show of support.
Right. Yeah. And he's had other comments like that make me think maybe he's really not the crypto fan that a lot of the crypto world wants him to be. When he was doing the Bitcoin 2024 conference, he signed off with "Have fun with your crypto and all the other things you're playing with," which
Okay, actually, I love that.
I love that.
yeah, that was actually a very good line, I thought.
I think I heard he bragged that Barron has 3 wallets.
Oh,
Yeah.
4 wallets. He says, Trump said he's got 4 wallets or something. He knows this stuff inside out.
Yeah, the 18-year-old Barron has been described as the DeFi visionary behind the project, which
God.
I think should be cause for concern. Especially
he's
given
in
that
his like 3rd week at NYU. He could be
Yeah.
a DeFi visionary over there.
Yeah. Well, and there have also been all these rumors that Barron was tied to various other Trump-themed projects, although a lot of those rumors are coming out of people like Martin Shkreli, the farmer bro. So not the most reliable narrator. But the whole thing is really just kind of a mess, I think. The Trumps have been trying to play it up with a lot of talking points that really feel like a flashback to about 4 years ago when people were still really starry-eyed about the potential for blockchains to fix the financial system and, democratize finance and all of this stuff. They've talked about, apparently the Trumps are now concerned about equitable access to financial services, which is kind of a new development. But, without any real reflection on the shortcomings of crypto to actually provide the types of financial services that some people truly do have trouble accessing. The Trump family was talking about how this would provide access to credit for those who have challenges getting credit,
boy.
which, definitely no predatory credit schemes out there that this could be joining. But beyond that, when you look at loans in the crypto world, people tend to forget that they are what's called over-collateralized loans, which means that you have to have more assets than you're borrowing in order to take out the loan. So if you have
hold on that for a second. Is that because that's just because crypto bros don't trust anybody, or
Exactly.
why is that? Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you're anonymously borrowing something, then unless you put up more unless you put more at risk than you're borrowing, you would just run away with the money.
So how do you collateralize if you're anonymous?
You basically put up Bitcoin or some, assets that you have, you lock those up as collateral for the loan, and then you borrow less of some other asset. It's primarily used by people who have, say, a whole bunch of Bitcoin that they don't want to sell. They just want to have access to like US dollar liquidity, and then they'll return it, and they don't have to take the gains on their crypto or whatever it might be.
But Molly, Bitcoin is the future. Why would they need petty cash?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Fiat.
It's just the slow real world that isn't accepting Bitcoin for the purchases they want to make, I suppose. But yeah, so like when you look at loans in that sense, that's really not the type of credit that people who have trouble accessing credit need, right? It's not that they need to have liquidity because they have all of these assets that they can't liquidate. It's that they don't have the assets and they need to take a loan to go to college or buy a house or whatever it is. And so this project really doesn't offer that to people, but that's really how it's being sold by the Trump family at this point, which is really a great start, I think, for this project.
Do they have a brand for it?
Yeah, it's called World Liberty Financial.
Wow.
The worst thing is that it hasn't really launched yet. There isn't really a product that you can use. But about 2 weeks ago, 2 of the Trump family Twitter accounts were hacked to promote a website that was supposedly this project. It had a domain that was similar to the product name. It had a fake token that was not associated with the Trump family in any way. They tweeted out this advertisement for it, and a whole bunch of people bought the token. I think at least $1.8 million lost to this scam. But right now, because there is no product and there is no real website for World Liberty Financial, as of yesterday, at least I haven't checked recently, but if you Google World Liberty Financial because you read it in a headline in the New York Times or you saw the Twitter space or something, one of the first page results is this scam website. And so there is like, there's nothing there yet except for a scam. And, I'm very concerned that a bunch of people are just buying this token that's showing up in Google because they want to get in on the Trump project. Because it was so poorly planned and there is no web presence really at this stage.
So 2 questions. First, did he push the Trump NFTs and playing cards?
He's been pushing those heavily just in general, but he directly cited the NFT project as something that convinced him that crypto was worthwhile, probably because he profited millions of dollars from it.
So here's that leads to my next question, which is how all do you imagine that this could be grift, that Trump can take money off the top of this and make money from it?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of ways, but they get a substantial number of the tokens that are associated with this project or will be associated with this project. They haven't launched yet, are allocated to insiders. And so there's a potential profit to be made there. As far as the borrowing and lending process, there's typically fees that go to the operators of the protocol in that case. Or, they sort of skim off the top there. And then, as far as other potential problems, I mean, we've seen projects like this get hacked and exploited repeatedly. We know that this project stems from the same code base that was hacked very shortly after its launch, and not in like a clever way and like, North Korea's best hackers found an exploit in this project that no one could have thought of. It was like very simple rookie mistake type of exploit. So I think there is the concern as well that, people who are holding collateral on this platform while they do whatever it is that they want to do with the loan that they've taken out could lose access to that if there is a big hack or some sort of theft.
Looks like we got a website now too.
Is that the real website? Is that the right one?
Is this the scam website?
That might be the scam website. What's the URL?
Wow. It's worldlibertyfinance.org.
Yep, I think that's the scam.
Wow.
Benito, you got.
I got.
Is it promoting a Solana token? I can't really see the.
He already bought the tokens.
It's got its own token. Trade WL.
Yep, that's the scam website.
200 grand
Wow.
in.
Yeah, jeez, Benito.
Yeah, but like as you can see on that website, like it looks relatively official. It's using the same branding that the Trump family has been throwing around. So yeah, like I said, I think there are probably a lot of people who are probably falling for this scam website because again, they have not responsibly launched this project in a way that would avoid the type of very
I'm sorry.
Well, right. But like that would avoid the type of very predictable things that happen in the crypto world, day in and day out.
So Molly, how long have you been covering crypto now?
Oh man, 3 years, something like that.
Feels like a lifetime.
Yeah.
It feels like it too.
So, well, I guess one question is there a point at which you say, I think I'm going to go cover restaurants? But the second question is, have you seen, it's just not in the news as much as it used to be. It's just not around and it's more of a laughingstock. And what's the cultural zeitgeist around crypto land?
Yeah, well, I guess to the first question, I'm still not sick of it. I like covering it. I find it to be a useful sort of microcosm of a lot of the issues that exist in the tech world. And so it fascinates me from that point, as well as just sort of the types of things that happen in the crypto world are so often stranger than fiction, and you don't get that everywhere, I would say. And so it keeps me entertained pretty well. But yeah, as far as the sort of zeitgeist in the crypto world, it's funny because you're right that you don't hear about crypto very much. It tends to be the butt of the joke a lot of the time. But I think a lot of people in the crypto world genuinely do not know that.
Really?
There has been,
At this point?
Yes.
What cognitive dissonance powers they have.
So there has been a lot of crypto attention circling around the election this year, and many people in the crypto world have actually very much convinced themselves that crypto is a major election issue, that people care so much about crypto that they will be supporting pro-crypto candidates and folks who are sort of adopting friendlier stances towards the crypto industry. And when you tell them that people don't actually feel that positively about crypto, it's like kind of a shock, I think, to a lot of them. They genuinely believe that this is like a major voter issue in the upcoming election. They've commissioned all these polls to try to convince other people of that, including potential candidates for office, which they've had some success with, I think. But the polls themselves are incredibly misleading. And when you actually dig into the data, it often prove the opposite of the points that they're trying to make. But crypto has sort of enveloped itself in this weird bubble where they are still the center of the universe, I think, to a lot of those people.
So I just pulled up, I just Googled crypto polls. I see a grayscale. They hired Harris, and Harris does all kinds of crap stuff, right? I think all polls are bad. I think all polls are to be ignored. So I don't.
You think
like
we
polls.
shouldn't ask anyone anything ever?
I think because it reveals more about us than about them. So Harris does this crap for hire. Nearly 1 in 3 American voters say that spot Bitcoin ETF approval has made them more interested in investing in Bitcoin or crypto. What?
Right. Like normal people read these things and they go, are you kidding me? Like they know their friends are not talking their ear off about Bitcoin ETFs.
Wow.
Yeah, no, and I've written about I wrote about the Grayscale poll. I wrote about a recent poll that the Paradigm crypto venture capital firm did about Democratic voters supposedly embracing crypto. When you dig into them, the polls are designed in such a way to encourage responses that are so vague that they can be twisted in these poll summaries to suggest a strong support for crypto. So they'll ask people things like, have you ever held cryptocurrency? And then they will take that group of people and describe them as crypto holders, even though they don't ask how many of those people sold their crypto or lost their crypto or had their crypto taken from them. Then they'll ask questions around, are you concerned about inflation? Or do you care about financial privacy? Or the Paradigm poll even had one that was like, do you worry about the government having access to your financial information if you were to seek reproductive care or something like that? And so they ask these very open-ended questions that don't even mention crypto. And then they say, look, all of these people care so much about financial privacy. Crypto is such a big voter issue in the upcoming election, even though they never ask, do you think that crypto is a viable path forward for financial privacy or anything like that? They also, the recent Paradigm poll said something about how Congress people are following the will of their constituents by embracing crypto. And then you look at the numbers and like 75% of respondents don't think crypto is a positive thing. And so you're like, wait, which constituents are we talking about? Because it sounds like they're going against their constituents if they're embracing crypto. But there's just a lot of this like massaging of numbers and really misleading summarization that goes into it.
Interesting.
And then, of course, the numbers get repeated by Congress people because people love numbers and they just sort of accept them as hard truth, even if they're really faulty.
What's the end game of crypto advocates right now? Because there was a time when it was like cryptocurrency is going to replace fiat. Cryptocurrency will be how you pay for everything. But now, obviously, the way people use crypto and make money off crypto is just like speculative gambling, or as a kind of a stock, a pseudo stock. Mm-hmm. What is their end game?
Well, there are still people who believe that crypto will become the future of currency. It's always been a fairly fringe belief, and I think it's growing even more fringe. But I think there are a lot of people in the crypto industry who just want to see crypto embraced into the traditional financial system and sort of foisted upon people in ways that they haven't been able to, which I think is why they've been so heavily involved in these elections. Is they're really trying to get friendly legislation passed. They feel like they can't do the types of things that they want to do. They can't offer the products they want to offer because of an SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, that has cracked down on some of the more blatant unregistered securities offerings that are happening in the crypto world. And so they see buying Congress people and sort of stacking Congress with crypto-friendly candidates as the path forward to legitimize the types of crypto industry companies that are operating in the United States. I don't think that most spokespeople at Coinbase would say that crypto is going to be the next US dollar. It's going to replace the US dollar. But they do think that crypto has a major place in the financial system, and they want to make sure that that happens however they can.
Well, one area where crypto is clearly exerting quite a bit of influence is the realm of Flappy Bird. People who had phones 10 years ago might recall the Flappy Bird craze. And as you may know, if you played Flappy Bird for a while, you could play it for a bit. It was quite hot. And then the creator took it down because he was worried about people being too addicted. Well, last week, there was a sudden announcement that Flappy Bird is back. It's going to have a bunch of new characters and game modes. However, it seems that this new version of Flappy Bird, this is what Ars Technica writes, has been wrestled from its creator by crypto bros. The creator of Flappy Bird tweeted, "No, I'm not related with their game. I didn't sell anything. I don't support crypto." Molly, have you been following this at all? Do you know how it ended up in the hands of the crypto bros?
Yeah, so the creator of Flappy Bird held the trademark for Flappy Bird, but the crypto company that decided they wanted to create this game was able to convince the courts basically that this trademark was inactive. And so they were able to basically re-register it because it was no longer in active use. The reason that the creator mentioned something about, "No, I didn't sell anything," is because a lot of people were speculating that he had sold the trademark to this company and then they had gone and created this game. Does not seem like that's the case. It doesn't seem like the original creator has been compensated at all for the project. And they've certainly been very strongly implying that he's behind it, that this is a relaunch of the original game versus a clone of the original game. They mentioned working with the predecessor of the game at some point. There's some speculation that
technically they worked with him because he'd had the lawsuit.
Well, I think it actually has to do with the fact that this is old history, but around the time Flappy Bird came out, there were allegations that the Flappy Bird creator had actually ripped off a different game and has sort of created a clone of a different game. And it sounds like they might be working with the creators of that game. And so that's sort of, I think, what they mean when they say working with the predecessor. But of course, everyone thinks that no one knows that. Everyone thinks they're talking about this other guy who seems very unhappy to be associated with this project at all.
The Flappy Bird Foundation said in its announcement that it's committed to preserving the Flappy Bird IP and expanding the legacy of Flappy Bird. The organization, this is from Ars Technica, social media, promises the game is 100% free to play and always will be, while linking to a playable version on Telegram, of all places.
It's taking advantage of a recent craze with Telegram, which are these games that are built on the Telegram blockchain. And it's the mechanic through which you play them it's called tap to earn. And it's very sort of cookie clicker-esque, speaking of sort of old games, where you literally just like mash the screen and it gives you points. And so I think that was kind of a natural segue into Flappy Bird, where you just tap the screen to make your bird go up and down. And so they realized
flap to earn.
Right, exactly. Yes. And so, that's where this is coming from. But I think it's really just the next step in the long legacy of blockchain games being incredibly unfun to play. You just have to mash. There's one, the big game that really kicked a lot of this off was called Hamster Combat. And you literally just mash the screen. There is very little in terms of actual gameplay, but people were getting really sucked into it.
Michael Roberts, who's listed in the press release as the chief creative behind Flappy Bird's return, is also head of studio for a group called 1208 Productions. The main crypto-related project, writes Ars Technica on the 1208 Productions site, is a set of NFTs based around the D's Nuts brand. The website for that project also lists Roberts, aka Papa Nut, as a partner of the Doge Pound NFT project. Truly cursed.
I want to say
I did not know there was a D's Nuts brand.
Sane. Yeah, exactly.
There's always another brand, unfortunately.
Oh, God. I made the mistake of Googling that. They're literally just anthropomorphic testicles.
Yep. Okay. No, it's nothing even somewhat creative. It's exactly what you'd expect.
Men.
I suppose moving on to a different kind of potential scam. The former CEO of MoviePass pled guilty this week to securities fraud conspiracy, taking a plea deal. If you recall, MoviePass was the business where you could pay $9.95 a month to get unlimited access to movies. The chief executive pleaded guilty to securities fraud, in which he admitted fault to conspiring to inflate the price of MoviePass's stock by lying about the fact that its business could be profitable, basically, which, surprise, surprise. This just stood out to me because I think MoviePass is a great example of how utterly, I guess, twisted in the head investors can get when it comes to assessing business's viability when you say the right words. There's no world in which someone should look at something like MoviePass and be like, yeah, that's going to work at scale.
The math there works.
Did.
Yeah, well, you thought you were getting away from the crypto and Web3 thing with this story, but there was actually... I do have a MoviePass entry, and Web3 is going just great, from February 2022, when they announced that MoviePass was going to be back, and you could earn cryptocurrency by watching ads while they tracked your eyeballs. So they certainly tried to give that a go as well. Angle. Yeah.
Is there a crypto angle to the Fire Festival?
There have been projects that have been very strongly compared to the Fire Festival. I'm not sure if the Fire Festival themselves had a crypto angle.
Isn't the Fire Festival coming back?
Supposedly, that's why I asked. It's like saying that MoviePass will come back. It's like saying the Fire Festival will come back.
I've been joking that the information should send me to Firefest 2.0.
Oh, I think so.
Some on-the-ground coverage. I could do a live stream in for Twit.
Take a lot of peanut butter with you so you have something to eat.
I will. I'll take a bunch of rations so that I'll be fine.
Yeah, get some of those emergency rations, and then I bet you could sell them online.
I could. Exactly. That could be the future of currency.
Have your own raft you go in on.
Yeah. I do think, though, that the Firefest guy, after he got out of jail, did try to get into a metaverse project or something like that. So he's certainly interested.
I've got another
sense.
question for you. Your expertise, Molly. SBF. Does the crypto world say, "Oh, he got robbed, he got railroaded," or do they say, "Oh, we don't who SB who"?
Yeah, no, he is not beloved among the cryptocurrency world. They think he ruined crypto's reputation. A lot of them lost money because of him, either because they had money on FTX or they lost it in related collapses. So he is not a hero in the crypto world by any stretch.
Thanks.
What's that I hear? It's the dulcet tones of Leo Laporte calling for another ad break. We'll see you shortly.
Can I interrupt just for a minute to tell you about Bitwarden? Love Bit. You know me. I will buttonhole people in the street to tell them about Bitwarden. Everybody who has passwords in their lives, who doesn't, right, needs Bitwarden. Even passkeys, because Bitwarden does passkeys better than anybody. Bitwarden is the open source password manager that gives a cost-effective solution that could dramatically improve your chances of staying safe online. Now, they've announced their 5th annual Open Source Security Summit. They're going to be there. It's coming up September 26th, just a couple of weeks. This year's headline speakers include security analyst Karen Elizari, journalist author Kim Zetter, NFL CISO Tomas Maldonado. He's got a big job, doesn't he? Register at bitwarden.com/open-source-security-summit. Dashes between all of them. bitwarden.com/open-source-security-summit. Learn about the future of open source security solutions. And you know something? The holidays are quickly approaching. You're going to be online shopping. You've got family members who are still reusing passwords, the same old password with their mother's maiden name and their dog's birthday. Stop the insanity. Protect them. Protect yourself. Bitwarden has announced the expansion of inline autofill capabilities. This is in their browser extension of Bitwarden, which is really good. It now does more than just passwords. It does cards and identities, which is great. When you're shopping, you'll autofill your addresses, your cards. It makes it so much easier to shop. This enhancement, though, benefits everybody. It means you're going to have a more secure interaction with web forms for payment details because it checks to see that it's a legit form as well, and will not let you fill in a phishing site, okay? Really important. So payment details, contact info, addresses, all of that is protected. Bitwarden, it's the best. It empowers enterprises, developers, and people like me, individuals, to safely store and share sensitive data. With a transparent, open source approach to password management, nobody does it better than Bitwarden. They make it easy for users to extend robust security practices to all their online experiences. I keep my passports, my driver's license, my social security number, everything in Bitwarden because it's safe. It's safe. And you need it. And I know you're probably already using it, but if your friends and family aren't, tell them about it. And if your boss isn't, if your business isn't, you will love Bitwarden's Teams or Enterprise plan. In fact, you get a free trial if you go to bitwarden.com/twit. And of course, as always, because it's open source, Bitwarden is free forever for individuals. And that includes unlimited passwords, devices, passkeys, hardware keys, the works, everything. Free forever. I'm a premium member. I pay $10 a year because I love them. I support them. I want them to succeed. They're the best. Bitwarden.com/twit. Please tell your friends, tell your family. And if you're not using Bitwarden, you start using it too. Bitwarden.com/twit. We thank them so much for all they do for us. On This Week in Google, on with the show.
The New York Times had an interesting story this week on the mushrooming security apparatus around Elon Musk that I thought was very interesting. And to give you guys a warning, I say we talk about this and then I want to throw to a story that maybe you think is interesting, Jeff, or Molly, if there's anything you want to talk about as well. But so this story specifically goes into how as Elon Musk has become the gargantuan figure that looms large in all of our lives today, both negative and positive, threats to his personal safety have also increased. The Times writes, his security team now operates like a mini Secret Service, and he is guarded more like a head of state than a business executive. Musk, who was once flanked by 2 bodyguards, now travels with as many as 20 security professionals who show up to research escape routes or clear a room before he enters. They carry guns and have medical professionals in tow for Mr. Musk, who has been codenamed Voyager by his security team. The threats to his safety have led Musk to become more fearful and his lifestyle more isolated. He is rarely without bodyguards, even when he went to the bathroom at X, according to a 2023 lawsuit filed by former employees over severance pay. It is kind of interesting. This article goes into a lot of interesting details about just how isolated his life has become, which I think probably informs a bit of the state of mind we see day to day. This is a quote from actually even kind of long ago, almost like a decade ago. It began like, bodyguards often ran errands for Musk and paid his expenses to minimize the time he spent in public. They washed his car, picked up his dry cleaning, once tipped a bartender $80 in London for keeping the bar open after hours. They also brought sombreros and fireworks for a 2015 New Year's Eve celebration for Musk.
He has no friends.
He has no friends. Well, actually, Jeff, he might have some friends. Many people trying to reach Mr. Musk were innocuous documents and recordings of phone calls obtained by the Times show. One woman left a 2-minute voicemail several years ago at one of Musk's companies, referring to him as, quote, Daddy Musk, and claiming they had spoken telepathically for the last year. Quote, I can't wait for you to propose to me in outer space on our station, she said. And worst of all, the growing security has limited Musk's movements. At Burning Man, the annual outdoor Nevada art and music festival, he mostly stays close to his camp.
I feel like that's how you know Burning Man has really gone corporate, is if Elon Musk is there.
If Elon Musk is there and he can't leave his camp with his 20 bodyguards because he feels too freaked out, then you know that Burning Man has truly died.
It's the modern Howard Hughes. He said this week that he thinks now people can be on Mars in 4 years. And somebody on the socials said, you go, Elon. And somebody else said he's probably dependent upon certain substances and doesn't want to be gone that long.
Yeah, I mean, the Journal has reported about his drug use. It's going to be, I suppose if you can get a rocket to Mars, you could probably load it with all the things you'd need. For a long period of time.
Yeah. Maybe.
I think he should give it a shot for sure.
I do think he should give it a shot. I think it could be fun.
We should really be firing more billionaires into space, if you ask me.
I do think so.
So the guy who did the air quotes spacewalk is from my town.
Oh, which one is this?
Just last week that what's it called?
So many billionaires are going to space, Jeff. I stopped paying attention after like the first 5 didn't blow up.
Aren't some billionaires trying to go in a submarine again too?
Yes.
I think I saw something about that. Yeah.
With who? Is it the James Cameron submarine or is it another less
tin can? I don't know.
One? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've been fascinated by watching the OceanGate investigation that is unfurling. Yeah. They've got that photo of the submersible shell cracked open on the seafloor. That's quite haunting.
Oof.
Yeah. That was a hell of a week. We all just sat there wondering. It really is the sort of news experience I don't think we get much anymore, where it's like 24/7 coverage of something that's actually happening, and we're all kind of interested in it. Because I feel like normally when we have that happen nowadays, it's just kind of depressing. It's like a war or something.
But you knew they were dead.
Well, yeah, but the Coast Guard was reporting like hearing a knocking sound, and like
oh yeah, I remember that.
CNN had an oxygen countdown clock. It was exciting.
Yeah, it reminds me of when the first big boat got stuck in the canal, where it was like everyone was sort of united by following this incident that generally didn't have that much in the way of like actual repercussions. I mean, it screwed up supply chains and things like that, but it wasn't like, war and death or anything like that. It was kind of nice.
Yeah, we need more neutral, good world events.
Well, if they start firing people into space,
that could be good. Listen, I remember watching when they did
billionaires.
When they did the Jeff Bezos rocket launch, the first one, I was sat on my couch watching it with
his cowboy hat.
With his cowboy hats. We had pre-writes for if it went well, if it went terribly, and I was finger on the button for both of them.
Did you have?
Yeah, that's one where you don't want to press the wrong button on that one.
Yeah.
So you had a hold for release obit for him.
I mean, yeah, we had you have a hold for release obit for every famous person, but we definitely had one. If something goes wrong in space, we can have a something's gone wrong in space briefing.
That's the new Silicon Valley status symbol. are you important enough for the information to have an obit ready for you?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
That's a great, that could be the new subscription tier.
I'll bet Jason thinks he has one. I'm hoping he doesn't, because I hope he lives.
No comment. All right, Jeff.
I
what
hope
do you
I
want to
never
talk about?
reach that stage personally. If
No.
if
Yeah,
there's
same.
ever a pre-written obit for me, I think I need to move into the woods.
Yeah, no one needs to know if I die. I should just rot into the forest floor, ideally.
Well, you see, I always thought that the one fringe benefit you get from having worked in journalism is that you get an obit in the place where you worked, but I'm outliving the newspapers where I worked. So
You don't think NJ.com is going to have a glorious little obit for you?
I doubt it. No, they charge you for it now. No.
That's pretty sad.
Yeah, the San Francisco Examiner is
Molly,
not what it used to
Jeff
be.
is the creator of NJ.com, New Jersey's foremost website.
Quite a legacy.
People blame me for that. Yeah.
People blame you for that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They get pissed.
They get pissed that New Jersey has a website now?
They don't like the website.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jeff, what do you want to talk about? Give me a story.
Well, we could go actual tech news like OpenAI and Strawberry, or we could go wacky stuff. What do you want?
You know what my choice will be. You've got to make a decision.
All right. So I want to mention this before we go too far. I think it's worth noting that Craig Newmark has pledged $100 million, line 125, to boost U.S. cybersecurity.
That's great. Friend of the show, Craig.
is a friend of the show. Yeah, we should mention that. All right, here's the weird one. Elizabeth McCafferty was offered £6,000 for images of her bare feet when they appeared on a fetish website without her consent.
What?
Line 129.
Wait, what do you mean she was? What do you mean she was offered?
Then
Was this
then-
like a settlement?
No, they wanted more.
Who is
to take
Elizabeth
it down? Was it like a
McCafferty?
ransom?
I guess she's an actress. I don't even know.
Oh,
that.
she's a journalist.
Well, she's a journalist. Yes. So she ended up finding herself on Wikifeet. Don't look that up either, Molly.
I
I'm
am
just
unfortunately
guessing.
already very familiar.
Yeah, we know Wikifeet.
You do?
Of course.
Oh.
Here, I'll read from the article she wrote. Even my own feet, Elizabeth McCafferty writes, have made it to the kink website Wikifeet, a platform where anyone even remotely in the public eye has pictures of their feet ranked. The platform gets close to 20 million views per month and is run by volunteers in the foot fetish community. In 2017,
Volunteers. It's a
So
wonderful
selfless.
thing to do. Yes.
in 2017, I was flooded with panic after finding that for years, images of my feet had been taken off my social media and put into a rating scale within the Wikifeet website. Oh, did I ever write about my experience with this? Hold on.
Oh, no. Oh, do tell, Paris.
Let me see
you
if
want
I
to.
did I write about it. I'm trying to think. I don't know if I did. I definitely wrote it in a cover letter for the outline. One time I was working on a story about, I don't know, something internet culture related, and then I got someone started liking a bunch of my Instagram posts, like 10 in a row, kind of creep behavior. And so I looked at it, and it was a account that was, I guess, like a foot fetish account, but the last 20 photos on it were all cropped photos of my feet from
Jeez.
my Instagram posts or my younger sister's feet from her Instagram posts. And so I think I was procrastinating doing on some other deadline. So I was like, this should be a reporting experience. So I reached out to the guy. I was like, hey, why the F do you have photos of my feet and my sister's feet on this? And he was like, oh, I thought they were attractive. We had a whole back and forth where he's like, I'm just a humble foot fetishist collecting photos that I think are interesting.
I have to say that is true commitment to journalism. Reaching out
really
to
is.
this guy.
And then we talked a bit, and he was like, yeah, I was like, walk me through how you got to me and my sister. And he had some actually involved answer. I feel like I did either report in this. If not, I just put a lot of effort into writing about this for a cover letter for the outline. as a example of internet culture, kind of guerrilla journalism. But yeah, the feet guys are everywhere. Is my
It's true.
takeaway from this.
So I've been aware of WikiFeet for quite some time. Most Wikimedians end up knowing about it somehow. And I am very cautious about posting photos and making sure that my feet are not visible.
Oh, same.
Because you can never be too careful.
Wow. I didn't know where that would go.
You don't appear to be on WikiFeet, Molly.
I am so happy to hear that.
There is a different Molly White, but it's Molly Peyton White, who appears to be a model.
Is it the fitness influencer?
Yeah, I would assume. Yeah,
Well, good for her.
Jeff, maybe you're on WikiFeet. Are there any photos of your feet on the internet?
There's no. My thighs have not seen sunlight since 1970.
You have to be careful.
and dust my
It's
feet with
easy to accidentally take a picture of your feet when you're
You
like
know,
trying
just
to take a
imagine you're
picture.
wearing, sandals and someone posts a
Yeah.
photo of you
No.
full body wearing jeans. That's a Wikifoot.
Or
See, I
I
don't-
get
I
it.
feel
Like if I'm taking a photo of like my dog sitting right next to me, it's easy to get your feet in the photo. You got to move your feet and make sure they're.
This is what the world has
Taunts
done
me.
to us. Jesus.
Yeah. No, this is a constant online joke where people will post, a cute photo of them in a friend group and someone's wearing sandals. And so they put an emoji over the feet and say, no free feet pics.
Yeah.
So I assume this woman got paid for her feet pics, which.
Well, she
good
got
for her.
offered.
Well, did she take the money?
£6,000. That's what I forgot.
£6,000. Listen, for feet pics. That's probably better than she's getting paid for four
Right, for
articles.
The
in
Guardian.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty compelling, I have to say.
Well, I think.
Jeff, what do you think about this? As someone, did you know of WikiFeet before this?
No, I did not. I'm not surprised. The internet being the internet. I mean, people find their water level.
That's kind of a male privilege thing because I know about WikiFeed only because a lot of women I know have told me about it because they're also the same as you guys, like very cautious about putting feet on the internet.
Like, yeah, it's like the two things I'm careful about is like not taking photos of like physically identifiable surroundings that someone could like geolocate me, like that guy on TikTok, and then not posting pictures of my feet.
Yes, this is something I think about often where I'm like, oh man, there's a grocery store near me that like the little fruit cups they sell have a really funny advertising slogan on them for the local grocery shop. And I want to post it because I could make a really good joke on it, but I can't because it's a grocery store near me. And I know that posting
really
that,
local,
if I ever wanted to find somebody, that's the sort of thing that I would use to help figure out what neighborhood they live in. So I can't post that on the internet.
Yeah, for a long time I wouldn't say what town I was in, but then it just got out there enough that I was just in Jersey. That's all. It's like being in Brooklyn. It's big enough.
It's true. Wow. I didn't think that that's what you were going to pick when you said a
What
weird
did you think
one.
I was going to pick?
I don't know. Something else. I thought you were going to talk about the feral 25-year-olds making Kamala Harris go viral on TikTok.
Which they are doing. And
They
it's
are.
weird that they'd be called feral.
Do you have an understanding of how that word's being used in this context, Jeff?
I think it's self-described. Is that they're kind of they
Rabid. I feel like it's an internet description. Feral.
Goblin
It's-
mode.
Yeah.
it's
goblin
Wild
mode.
West. It's the new Wild West. One of the
Jeff, does the phrase goblin mode mean anything to you?
no.
It's kind of like feral or Wild
You got
West,
me.
honestly,
You
but
got
it's a
me.
bit more debased.
Okay. All right. I feel so old. I feel so left out. So pathetic. The person who used to be the governor of New Jersey's social person went to the White House. I don't know whether she's one of them or not. I couldn't quite tell. They do a great job. But what's fascinating about this is TikTok's about to get banned. In the appeal that they had this week, it did not go well for TikTok at all.
Yes, but I mean, I feel like that's kind of assumed. I assume that it's not going to go well for them. They will get banned. They'll appeal it, try and get an injunction, and then this will be appealed up to the Supreme Court, and then we'll eventually have to deal with whether or not TikTok is banned in like 2 years.
I wonder whether there's enough, whether Kamala Harris finds enough benefit if she wins, knock wood, Sorry, political statement, but I'm going to make it. And TikTok had benefit. Does that change the political reality around TikTok?
I mean, both campaigns are using it. Like, I feel like they're both benefiting from it. So, but whether or not that's enough to override the other moral panic that's happening around China is a different question.
Yeah. I think it's also a question of like, yes, both campaigns are using it. Kamala Harris's case, the Harris campaign is seeing a lot of traction on TikTok, but the sort of users that are sharing these posts, many of them are under 18, and the ones that aren't are like 18 to 30, and those people don't really vote. So I guess the question is like, would this be a useful tool in motivating people who typically don't turn out to turn out? And that remains to be seen.
I mean, it certainly seems like a good strategy to try to convince those people to come out and vote. You know, if you have a captive audience who likes your memes, you know, it might be easier to convince them to come vote for you.
So I still want TikTok to stick around. My fear is that it will go through, it'll get bought by somebody bad like Musk, like Mnuchin, who's talked about buying it. And we end up with a second Musk.
Yeah, that would be unfortunate.
It would be. I saw this week too, I didn't put a story in. Mark Cuban said that he would buy buy Twitter in a flash.
Well, I think he said if he had enough money for it, which he doesn't. So it wasn't really a serious offer.
Cheap now. It's pretty cheap.
Yeah, that's true.
Now.
It might be bargain bin at this point.
Yeah.
And I think he could probably get some funders for it. I can't believe it, but I would welcome Mark Cuban as my new master.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're at this stage where, you know, we need to stop deciding, you know, which billionaire we want controlling the social networks and instead maybe try something different. There are certainly less awful billionaires, but perhaps there's a better way.
Well, here's the really sad story along that line. On this show, Leo has talked up for a long, long time about the wonders of the Fediverse and the wonders of Mastodon and how we should support them and how wonderful they are. I don't know if you saw that Mozilla, which was doing a really good job of a principled presence on Mastodon, just announced they're going to shut it down.
Yeah, they're shutting down their Mastodon instance, which is...
Wait, who is?
A shame. Mozilla.
Oh.
Which is really sad. But given the antitrust case with Google probably taking money out of Mozilla, they're going to have to cut whatever they have. So
yeah, it didn't strike me as a choice that was because like the Fediverse is losing momentum or anything like that. It seems like perhaps there are external factors at play there, because there's certainly a lot of interest in the Fediverse from large platform. I mean, Threads and Meta have been investing in metaverse projects. We've seen news outlets like The Verge getting involved, and so it definitely...
There's also a change of administration at Mozilla.
Yeah. So, you know, I don't see it as at least necessarily a bad sign for the Fediverse, but yeah, it is disappointing to see it go out that way.
I have a couple of pages in the book quoting them, praising them for the principles that they came about how to do speech there, and that they were going to moderate, and we're going to tell you we're moderating, and this is how we're doing it. And I think it was a really good model, and then boop, gone.
The dangers of writing about such a quickly changing medium as the web.
True. Have Molly, do you use an iPhone or an Android?
I use an Android.
I'm the only iPhone user here. Benito, do you use an iPhone or an Android?
I'm on iPhone, yeah.
Did you update to the latest iOS?
I don't know. If my phone did it for me, then yes, but I don't know.
I did, thinking
as much as
other people would, because I wanted to use... Basically, Apple rolled out a new iOS upgrade, and in my opinion, the only real notable thing about it is that it added a bunch of interesting messaging capabilities that I assume that Android has this just because I assume that everything new we get in the iPhone, Android already has. But it's stuff like you can italicize words in your text or react to a text with a emoji. But of course, after I updated, I realized that I cannot send that to people until they've updated to iOS 18.
Yeah.
So it's never going to be useful for me.
Well, and you get a weird cross-platform issues too, like where if you're texting with someone on who's using an Apple device and they edit their text message, you just get a new text message that says like so and so has edited their text message to say this, and it's like this really clunky, weird, not interoperable. Yeah, exactly. Or reactions show up weird as well. But
it's also interesting because, I mean, this update, again, didn't fix, like, the green bubble, like, problem.
Right.
Apple had said that they were going to work for compatibility.
How hard is that to fix? Every bubble is the same color.
Technically. It's not hard. It's just a big selling point for Apple, frankly. The reason why, I mean, I hear this when I talk to, like, teenage or younger users. The reason why people want iPhones from a young age is they don't want to be a green bubble. This was even part of, I think, their advertising campaign for a bit, but due to EU regulations and different stuff like that, Apple's being forced to change, but they haven't done it yet.
Because I've always used an Android, I just like don't even think of this as a thing that anyone notices. Like my bubbles are all the same color, so I don't really care. But it is very funny that is sort of a status symbol type of thing. But I wonder to what extent people are using, like, how many do young people text or do they use other messengers?
Oh, good question.
I think that is actually a good question. I think a lot
I'm so happy hearing you ask
other...
about young people. So happy.
What do the youths do these days?
Youths, I do think, use other messengers. I don't think they're out there texting, which is interesting.
Yeah, that's always sort of been my impression too. And like even I use text with like a couple of people, but I feel like most of my messaging these days happens on Signal. And so what's happening on, with text messages is sort of a foreign world to me to some extent.
Yeah, I mean, part of the issue is that right now, if you're an iPhone user and you're put in a group chat with Android users, it defaults the messaging for everybody to SMS. And this is part of the reason why, like, photos going between iPhones and Androids are messed up. And there's just a bunch of issues with it. And Apple... this is from the Washington Post. They say, like, what changed with iOS 18 is that Apple has stitched its Messages app with, a global update to SMS known as RCS. Now, while now you see text message in your chat box while you're messaging with Android friends, with iOS 18, you'll see RCS most of the time. That shows everyone in your chat has some, but not all, of the capabilities of purely internet-based chat apps like WhatsApp. And the Washington Post says that I guess with this new update, their tests showed that RCS did a better job exchanging messages that include photos and GIFs and videos, which is huge. And they say what's still not so good is there's still some limits to RCS. The Google Message apps, for instance, for Android phones is based on RCS2, and it does let you schedule messages to anyone, no matter the device. In most cases, your message might not go out if your phone is turned off and disconnected from internet services, but that's a fair trade. Apple won't let you schedule messages in the new thing to people who don't have Apple devices, which I think is just petty.
Mm-hmm. Snobs. They're snobs.
They also say the biggest problem is that Apple didn't fix the security and privacy compromises anytime your chat involved at least one Android user, which is dumb as well.
I tried to do some quick research into whether youths text. It sounds like it's kind of a mix, but that a lot of them use Instagram DMs and Discord and Snapchat.
I was about to say Snapchat is also big.
Around.
Still.
The youths love Snapchat.
I remember Snapchat was big when I was in, I don't know if it might have been college. It would have been college because I don't think I had a smartphone until college. But I thought it had sort of died, but maybe it's just I outgrew it.
It's really big as, a messaging app. It's also for a lot of young people. I mean, just the default way they communicate. This became a really big issue when Snap, I think a year or so ago, had introduced this feature. It was something called the Snap Solar System or something like that, where essentially it was a screen that would show a solar system of your friends and connections. And this was a problem for kids because, if I think Jeff is my best friend, and I see in my solar system that Jeff's planet is the closest to me, and then I look at Jeff's and he has 20 people who are close to him, and I'm not even on there, then you feel like a loser. And it became such a big
MySpace's top friends list all over again.
But it's automated.
Time is a flat circle. Yeah, that's true.
It's
and you can't do the thing where if your friend pisses you off, you passive aggressively remove them from your top friends list.
Not that you ever would have done
point,
that.
Really?
Oh, never. Yeah, but everything goes back to itself. Speaking of Discord, Discord is launched and is launching end-to-end encrypted voice and video chats, which I guess is useful for all those teens who are out there using Discord. It's
Does
also
it have end-to-end encrypted text chats?
It says Discord audio and video calls inside the platform will now be end-to-end encrypted.
It sounds like not text chats though. I'm just
it sounds like voice, video, voice channels. Yeah, I don't think it's text. Private messages, on the other hand, will not be end-to-end encrypted. And they says safety is entwined with our product and policies, while audio and video will be end-to-end encrypted. Messages on Discord will continue to follow our content moderation approach.
Yeah, I assume it's the low-hanging fruit would be the text messages.
Yeah.
I think it's because Discord is in the crosshairs of regulators for a lot of different issues, in part relating to content moderation. They've come under scrutiny, I guess, from sexual exploitation ending groups around facilitating sex trafficking.
I feel like encrypting video is
definitely not good. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's good to encrypt.
I think it's good, but it's not good for that.
But that's not going to solve that.
The way that this article says that the quote from this article is, safety is intertwined with our product and policies. While audio and video will be end-to-end encrypted, messages on Discord will continue to follow our content moderation approach and are not end-to-end encrypted, which is such a weird way of saying it. They're basically saying that they have chosen to abandon content moderation in audio and video and encrypt it, but that they want to be able to spy on your direct messages so that they can do the content moderation there. I don't understand it.
Molly, is the more cynical view that if the bad guys all encrypt photos and videos, then nothing we can do about it. We don't know. I know nothing.
But then why not do text messages too?
Because all they're in trouble for is images.
I guess
is that right,
true,
though?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think pretty much. If we're talking about child porn and stuff like that, then it's going to be images that get you in trouble. So the really cynical view is they'll just keep the cops off their back that way.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the conversation though is about grooming and sort of the types of conversations that lead up to photos. But yeah, perhaps.
That is interesting. I wonder what.
Well, now you can share photos of your feet in security that it's
finally,
finally a place for my feet. Jeff, what's going on with AI?
All right. Well, there's a lot.
You don't say.
Strawberry came out, which is OI or O1.
I've been having strawberries for years.
Yes, it gives me rashes, but that's all right. No, we really can't play with it much yet. What's interesting about it is that OpenAI insists that this is about reasoning, that it can reason, and oh my God, it's closer to AGI, which is BS. I don't believe any of that crap. What it does is simply, as far as I can understand it, take a problem and parse it into pieces. And it takes longer, and it takes a lot more computer power to do that. But in doing so, they say it can solve these complex problems. And it shows you, supposedly it shows you the steps it takes, but it doesn't actually show you the steps it takes. There's another AI that interprets what's behind the scenes and presents that to you. And folks are trying to hack behind that and find the actual steps that it takes. And they're being sent cease and desist, stop this, or we're going to take away your account emails. Because OpenAI doesn't want people to see this. And they're arguing it's about safety or competition or whatever. But I think that we would start to learn more about what's going on. If they had more transparency about how things operate, I think that would be a not bad thing, but it's not real transparency. It's OpenAI bullshit. What amuses me about it is that you have the yin yang and moral panic going on, where the one hand, oh my God, they can do more, they can do biological weapons and that kind of stuff. And then you have other people who are saying, all that's just marketing, shush. There's nothing going on here. So it's right now it's a fair amount of smoke, and we'll see how real it is when people can actually use it at great measure. It's released. It's not going to be released for free for a while. They'll do a light version. That's the strawberry news.
Interesting. I have questions, which I will ask after this ad break.
This episode, oh, hi. I thought I'd stop by because I think you need help. BetterHelp. Get it? See what I did there? BetterHelp, our sponsor for this portion of This Week in Google. What is something you would love to learn? Gardening? A new language? I want to learn carpentry. Or maybe how to finally beat your best friend in bowling. Everybody's got different goals, right? As an adult, do you make time to learn new things as often as you like? Or did you completely lose that in childhood? Most of us, we got our head down day to day. We're just grinding. We're just trying to make it. Kids are always learning. They're always growing. But as adults, life gets in the way. That's why I'm a big believer in therapy. You see, it's not just, people sometimes say, oh, I don't need therapy. I'm fine. Therapy isn't about fixing you. Therapy is about helping you have the best possible life. It can help you reconnect with your sense of wonder, because your back to school era can come at any age. I am such a big believer. I see my therapist every week, not because I'm crazy, not because I got problems, because I want to live a richer, better life. You can too. And BetterHelp makes it affordable, convenient, and easy. If you're thinking of starting therapy, or maybe you say, no, that's not for me, but it's because it's too much work, it's too expensive, you got to give BetterHelp a try. It's completely online, which makes it very convenient. My son loves that. My son just said, oh, yeah, this way, wherever I am, because he's always traveling. So I can talk to my therapist every week. Designed to be convenient, flexible, suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire, a little simple thing just to get you matched with the right therapist, but important. And I really underscore this. If your therapist isn't a perfect match, they will let you change at no charge. You can shop around until you find exactly the right person. No additional charge. This is done right. Rediscover your curiosity. Get the gusto, the zest, the fun back in your life. Be happy with BetterHelp. Am I not allowed to say that? Well, I'm going to say it. BetterHelp.com/twig. Go there today. Get 10% off your first month. It's very affordable, very convenient, and it works. It's really all about getting a better life. BetterHelp, HELP.com/twig. BetterHelp.com/twig. You got to check it out. And I thank you so much for your support, BetterHelp, and for helping me lead the life I want to lead. I don't want to leave, but I have to. We gotta get on the boat and sail off into the sunset. Twigs, take it over. Come back. I'll be back next week. Go.
So my question with Strawberry and what you just said is, how are people trying to figure out what's going on behind the scenes?
I'm not exactly sure how they're hacking it, but they're asking it to do things, and they're getting told to stop by OpenAI.
I like that.
Let's see here. What was it? Line 84. The information
I've heard of
reports. Why OpenAI is hiding its reasoning models' thoughts. So in the blog post, they announced that it uses an internal chain of thought. And there's an example here, by the way, I should give you, which is what was called the Tom Cruise problem. That if you asked ChatGPT before, who is Tom Cruise's mother, it would say Mary Lee Pfeiffer. But if you turned around and said, who is Mary Lee Pfeiffer's son, it got befuddled and smoke came out of its ears. didn't know what to do. Now it can answer that. So clearly,
Finally.
it's near human intelligence, right?
Yeah. That's what we needed.
Exactly.
And we couldn't just consult a reference work for this information, I guess.
No, we need to ruin the environment to answer that question a million times. So the O01, letter O1 model shows a model-generated summary of the chain of thought. That's what they call it, chain of thought. And by the way, anthropomorphization, it doesn't think, which implies that its thoughts are rewritten by a different model altogether before the customer sees them. OpenAI said it decided to keep the raw chain of thought hidden primarily because that would allow its employees, and only its employees, to read the mind of the model to understand how it operates. OpenAI said it didn't want the model's unfiltered thinking to be shown because it might contain unsafe thoughts, and that the company wants to monitor the model to make sure it's not being treacherous, such as manipulating the customer. Like, oh, it's so powerful. We got to make sure we're all the ones who can protect you from this.
I hate when my models are treacherous.
Yeah, exactly. OpenAI didn't hide the fact that another factor in its decision was a competitive advantage. And the ever nice information said that that's understandable. I think I'm not so sure.
That does seem like it's probably the real reason, though.
yeah. But I think it's also PR. It's not that Google's going to figure out how to do this. Google knows how to do this, I'm sure. It's more of, oh, this is how it operates. Oh, that looks stupid. Oh, that's how it does things. And I think that smart reporters would come in and learn more. So where was it here?
Some developers have said they are annoyed by the hidden chain of thought because they could get billed for something they can't see. OpenAI charges developers based on how many tokens, words, or parts of words models process and spit out in the form of answers. That's kind of interesting.
It is.
You can't see the bill of sale.
Right. You don't know what it's doing. Is the cab driver going on the LIE to get to Kennedy when they should go on the South, whatever,
Well, your cab driver is probably going to take a really long route so that you don't have to go over a bridge, Jeff.
That's true. So that's Strawberry. Other AI news, I found this interesting. In the regulatory realm, Gavin Newsom signed, I think, three bills into law this week that limiting and causing enforcement of disinformation, election disinformation, particularly out of AI. However, at the same time, he expressed some concern about the big AI bill that is awaiting his signature. That we're not sure he's going to sign, that I hope he doesn't sign personally. That would make model makers responsible for everything anybody ever figures out how to do with these machines, which I think is foolishness. But it's another moral panic about AI.
No,
really getting great
no.
Oh, that's a new one. I didn't see that one before.
Where did that one come from?
There's a bunch of these
I like
now.
that. I like that you've had to create multiple versions of this.
That,
more?
Molly, is also a photo of Jeff from when he was one of the 100 most eligible bachelors in San Francisco.
Oh my god!
Very
Well, it was
important
later.
lore.
It was later. I was grown up by then.
You want
I
to
was
see another
married
one?
by then. That was from the launch of Entertainment Weekly.
Yeah, wait, do you have more?
I'm getting too old for this.
Very good. That's a strong one.
That's a really good one. Why had we not been bursting this out?
Yeah. Jeez.
Wow.
Give credit
That's
where
very
credit's
strong.
due. Who has made those, Benito?
Probably Anthony. I think Anthony.
I think Anthony did. Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
So the AI bill is driving a wedge through Silicon Valley. Some are for it, some are against it. We'll see what happens, but that's now hanging there.
It is interesting because it seemed like Newsom was definitely going to sign it before, and now it's a bit up in the air.
No, not so sure. I didn't think. I think he was giving mixed signals. Very Newsom of him.
Yes.
And then there's this. If we want to panic about something, Larry Ellison declares that Oracle is your all-in-one AI mass surveillance tool, and that society is going to be a lot better because Larry's going to look over everything you do.
Finally.
Didn't he just move up in the billionaire rankings? I feel like I saw a headline about that.
De-seated Bezos.
Yeah.
Really?
He's number 2 now.
No, you're kidding me.
Yeah, I saw this
Oh,
because
yuck.
people were tweeting, "What does Oracle do?"
What does Oracle do? Yeah. Nobody knows.
No one knows. Well, this.
They sell AI now. Hooray.
Of course, they all sell AI now.
He's the retail Planeteer.
AI is hot and databases are not, he said, making Oracle's part of the puzzle seemingly less sexy, but no less important, at least according to the man himself. God,
Jesus.
He's so awful.
that's rough. Well, it's a lovely company up there in the top 3 billionaires.
The way he's putting it is that he's going to supervise the police. Every police officer is going to be supervised at all times. If there's a problem, AI will report that problem to the appropriate person. Yeah, sure. Citizens will be on their citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting, Ellison said.
Wait, he's saying he's going to police the police? He's the one who's going to police the police?
And
he's going to be
everybody.
the RoboCop.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
The police will be on their best behavior because we're constantly watching and recording everything that's going on, Ellison told analysts. He described police body cameras that were constantly on with no ability for officers to disable the field feed to Oracle. Even requesting privacy for a bathroom break or a meal only meant sections of recording would require a subpoena to view, not that the video feed was ever stopped. AI would be trained to monitor officer feeds.
Take this, Larry!
Forward.
Record
Oracle
this, Larry!
Oracle will have a recording of every urinal that an NYPD officer visits. That is for certain.
And a few bushes, too.
The Oracle will have a lot of Candy Crush recordings.
Yeah.
A lot of donuts.
Oh, he puts it very plainly. There are so many opportunities to exploit AI, he says.
Isn't this disgusting?
Among other
This
things.
is rough.
Yeah, that's
rough.
They don't usually say it that explicitly.
They're just like saying it out loud now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does. He
He's
also
like, no
suggested
one
that
pays attention to me anyway, so.
drones could be used to pursue police suspects instead of relying on patrol vehicle chases. And it's
They're literally just doing RoboCop.
Satellite imagery of farms can be analyzed by AI to forecast crop yield and suggest ways to improve field conditions. I don't know, for marijuana.
Why do they need AI for why is AI the thing keeping them from deploying drones to chase suspects? Like that seems unrelated.
Lots of AI. You can have lots of drones out there that are monitored by the AI and then deploy the cops to them.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It
Speaking
just
of
seems
Tom
like
Cruise,
a totally non sequitur.
yeah.
Anything to get that stock to go up. He's got to unseat Musk next.
I was going to say, he's got to get up that list for sure.
God, he'll buy Twitter.
Oh, boy. Next on the chopping block is, can AI really replace Salesforce and Workday? Oh, no.
I know people, and luckily I never had to do it. It was just being implemented at CUNY. Friends of mine in education hate Workday. It is the bane of their existence. Everything they do has to go through Workday. Every little, they have to get a pencil. They've got to go through Workday and fill out forms and do all kinds of crap. They despise it.
Well, maybe they could have a chat bot now instead. Won't that be fun?
Well, so Salesforce just put out its first agents. And I remember when I went to a World Economic Forum event on AI, they said the Salesforce executive of some sort was there saying that basically agents is the next level of trust. You're not going to release something to go do your work for you unless you really can trust that the output is okay. Well, now Salesforce is going to release agents doing things. So
I truly don't understand it.
I don't either.
What a strange world. Apparently, this was the hot topic at the Information's AI Summit the other week. My colleague my colleagues write for our AI newsletter. They said some enterprise software professionals think it's inevitable that app building will become a relatively simple affair. Those of you who follow Snowflake, which sells large databases that companies use to store their data, may know it's publicly pushing the narrative that its customers will be able to build many kinds of apps, starting with business analytics, thanks to conversational AI. A bunch of startups are already trying to sell CRM and HR apps built with OpenAI's tech, or open-weight, also known as open source, LLMs, for a small fraction of the cost of incumbent apps. No word yet on whether any of them have become popular, or if any of them work quite well.
Yeah, well, there's that too.
As a software engineer, I have to say I feel very comfortable in the future of my field, in that we will inevitably be called in to fix what these things, the terror that they unleash.
And this is something that I feel like is a really popular talking point too. When I was on vacation last week, my parents were trying to talk to me about like work stuff, and I was like, oh God, I don't want to talk about tech. But the one thing my dad, a total layman on this, brought up, he's like, AI, ChatGPT is going to replace every software engineer. I mean, why do you think that is the narrative that people move towards, and why do you think that it's so misguided?
Well, I mean, I think that there would be a lot of money in replacing software engineers. You know, it's a relatively highly paid field, and people would love to not have to pay anyone if they were able. I think, you know, and there's always been sort of this feeling, I think, among a lot of executives that they wish that they could build some app or create some software, but they're not able to because of the cost and the time and the investment that it would take. So people have all these ideas that they think would be brilliant if they could, you know, have an AI to create them. But I think it is misguided in terms of actually, you know, if you've used the tools that, you know, claim to help software engineers or even claim to replace software engineers, they're not great. They require expertise to use. You have to be able to tell what is functional code and what is some crazy Stack Overflow answer that just got sucked into the model and it has been spit out in front of you. You know, I've used them and they are helpful in some ways, but mostly they're helpful in terms of like speeding up that sort of boilerplate code that you always have to write, and not in terms of actually doing the thinking for you. The thinking is the hard part, and that's, you know, what you pay software engineers to do and software architects and, you know, very experienced people to do. The boilerplate code is the easy part, and it's not, you know, it certainly might speed up an engineer to some extent, but my feeling that, you know, is that it will not replace one, certainly not with the technology that has been deployed to date.
Yeah.
Well, when you lose your job, as you will, you can all go work for Mr. Beast and make videos.
Thank God.
Oh, thank
Mr.
God.
Beast put up his 36-page guide to how to work for Mr. Beast.
I
can see Benito
saw
is studying
so
it right now.
many people tweeting about this, and every screenshot I saw was the dumbest business advice I've ever read. And every single person was like, this is brilliant. This is the future of business. And I was like, this guy is writing that people shouldn't get promotions because we're all a family here. Like, that's not the world's most genius business advice.
All he cares about is making as many videos as possible. Before you get mad, recall the story about James solving a problem in 30 minutes a team of 5 couldn't do in a week. In that example, does it really matter how many hours they worked? Obviously, we want grinders that put in the hours and love you guys to death that do. But at the end of the day, you will be judged on the results, not ours. We are a results-based company. Get the S done and move the goalpost. Oh, Jesus Christ.
He's recently released a Lunchables competitor. So, you know, big things for that business.
What's in
What do
it?
you think of what's the
What's in it? What's in it? I
distinguishing
gotta know.
feature? Yeah.
It's got more electrolytes, which means more salt.
That's what Lunchables has always suffered from, is the
It's
lack
called
of
Lunch
The
salt.
sodium.
Please. And he's partnering, I believe, with either Logan or Jake Paul. I'm not sure which.
Amazing.
To do it. So, it's going to be a
Oh,
great
jeez.
business.
I spent basically 5 years of my life locked in a room studying virality on YouTube. Some days,
That's why he loves
That's a
people
really
in
great
rooms
way to
now. It's to
describe.
get revenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he studied virality and not actually how to make good content. See, there's a
No.
big difference there of making like
Yeah.
a good show and making something that goes viral. There's two very different things.
Yep. But he's rich and we're not.
It's true.
But at what cost?
At the cost of everything. All right, let's do the Google changelog.
Ooh, is there one?
I threw some stuff in here.
Google
Oh,
changelog.
There's always a lot of really interesting stuff going on with Google. Case in point, Google Photos will now let you flip your photos and videos horizontally. Wow. That's a
You might
huge
laugh,
update, folks.
But I
That's-
have actually run into this problem in the past, and I am delighted that they have fixed this, because it's just such a weird thing to not be able to do. Like, I one
Wait,
time
you
Googled,
couldn't do this?
yeah, like you can rotate, but you can't flip. You can't like mirror a photo. And I looked up one time how to do that on my Android phone, and it was like, oh, you have to download an app. And I was like, are you kidding me?
What? Well, good news for you, because it's coming soon.
This is very
if not
good news.
already available, says 9 to 5 Google. Similarly, Google Chrome is getting one-tap notification to unsubscribe starting on Pixel.
Unsubscribe what?
Updating safety check in Chrome for Android and desktop, with a big focus on getting rid of unwanted website notifications through features like one-tap subscribe. What does this mean?
I think this would require you to actually have enabled web notifications in the first place, which
Has
is really the
anyone
barrier here.
in the history of the world said yes when a random website asked if they can give you notifications?
I have never.
Similarly, Safety Flag will automatically revoke the notification permissions from sites that Google Safe Browsing finds to be deceiving users into granting the permission, and it will flag Chrome extensions that may pose a security risk to you. All right, Google. Google Shorts to integrate Veo, Google's AI video model. Cool.
YouTube Shorts, not Google Shorts.
Or Google,
Yeah, I was thinking
YouTube
that was
Shorts.
a new fashion.
It's like, what is
No.
Google Shorts?
Listen to Google, like, imagine Google branded shorts, like 5-inch shorts could be kind of fun.
It's like those hats with a spinner on the top that they give to employees.
This was a main attraction of YouTube's Made on YouTube event Wednesday morning. It was AI. The company announced that it's integrating Google's DeepMind AI video generation model, Veo, into YouTube Shorts, letting creators generate high-quality backgrounds as well as 6-second clips. Do either of you guys watch YouTube Shorts?
No.
I don't, but I kind of assume it's because I don't watch YouTube. But there's got to
You
be
That
watch-
may be a
for them.
factor for me too.
Yeah.
Do you watch Facebook stories?
No,
I don't
I
either.
only use Facebook for Facebook Marketplace or groups.
But I
that
do
are relevant
watch.
to
I
reporting.
watch like Instagram Reels, which I feel like is the same.
That is
sort
the
of
same
idea. Yeah.
Do you watch
so-
TikTok?
Usually only because I run into them on other platforms. I've tried to get into TikTok, and it has
Do you
not
have
worked.
the app on your phone? I'm
I
curious.
do. I do.
Okay, there's a
I have even
strange-
posted TikToks myself.
I've never posted a TikTok. I have the app on my phone, but I like to watch TikToks occasionally. But I have there's a strange thing I've noticed among like the 30-something Brooklyn crowd I hang out with, that there's like a group of people that are like, I'll never download the TikTok app. I only watch my short form content on Reels. And I'm like, it's the same thing, you fool.
Yeah, half the time it has the TikTok logo on it because they've just cross-posted it. I feel like the only reason, or not the only reason, but one of the major reasons I don't use TikTok is because I just get it elsewhere and I don't have to use two apps.
I love TikTok.
Yeah, TikTok's
I-
great.
It's, I shouldn't say this, but it's the new reading a book in the bathroom.
I think
reading
that's
the
Not what I
for
thought
me.
you were going to say.
I think the issue I've run into is just that, like, you do have to put a little bit of upfront effort into training the algorithm to give you things that you want to see.
And avoiding certain things you don't want to see.
Yeah. And like, I have not yet been able to devote that time to it. And so I just get a lot of really weird and not interesting stuff, whereas the Instagram algorithm sort of has me figured out. And so I just go over there.
Yeah. Jeff, what sort of TikTok videos do you watch? Like what sort of content would you normally passively get from TikTok?
Well, so mine is pretty high grade here. Jamel Bowie.
Carefully curated.
Jamel Bowie of the New York Times does great explainers. Oops, sorry.
Watching TikToks now.
I am. Oh, no. How did I get Chris Saliza? No, TikTok.
Betrayed.
I get Tim Waltz and Kamala Harris. I get a
lot of cat videos.
Yeah.
I get a lot of people who were trying to speak German because I once looked at that, and so now I get it. So there's a really nice young woman who lives in Germany who says funny things about that. I get political things. I get music. I get a lot of music. There's a wonderful woman who's the head of organ music. She's 25 years old at Cambridge University. She's amazing, and she's done albums because she's been on TikTok. And there's three teenagers and a family in South Africa who do phenomenal music, who've been on America's Got Talent. Cats, dogs.
You've got the whole.
That's pretty much what I get.
The whole spectrum there. That's good.
There's Tim Waltz backstage. Some travel stuff. Yeah.
Nice.
It's nice. The cat distribution system is very big for me.
Yeah, I was about to say the cat distribution system is a lot of what I get on TikTok, which is the word for when someone is out about in their life and then stumble upon a cat. And they describe that as the cat distribution system.
And it's now their
cat distributed to them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's happened to me.
Really?
I got you did?
Yeah,
really?
as a foster parent.
Oh, that's cute.
I have to admit, I got all engaged because I couldn't wait to get to the end of it, and still haven't. The guy has a car that absolutely smells and stinks, and he can't figure out where the smell is from. So I've watched 8 videos now of him trying to tear apart.
Okay,
another
that's
part of the car.
entirely engagement bait, Jeff.
Okay,
you were getting got.
I would definitely fall for that, though.
I would fall for it too, though, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, here are 2 cats playing air hockey.
I've seen that video. Those cats are very cute. They're lightly tapping the ball. Well, Google Photos is getting a new Ultra HDR editing option. Don't know how that is better than HDR. This is from Android Authority, who says, we've also found evidence to suggest that the HDR effect option will be renamed to Vibrance. What is the HDR effect? It
just
Android
bumps
photos?
It bumps up the saturation and the contrast a little bit.
Interesting.
It honestly is not my favorite look. It's got a very recognizable look to it where it you know it if you see it, kind of. I don't know why we need an ultra version of that, but
very 2015.
This is something I noticed.
It reminds me of Instagram filters a lot.
It's something I noticed when I upgraded to the, I guess not newest iPhone, but the iPhone 15 from my iPhone 10 or whatever, is that did it because I wanted to get the new camera, but they have some auto HDR thing in there that applies a very slight filter to the photos that I just can't unsee. And it's just slightly more contrast, and it's odd. It's interesting.
Yeah, that sounds kind of like it sounds kind of like a similar thing here.
Available under the Adjust feature within Google Photos, the new Ultra HDR option seems to one-up the existing HDR effect option. It's unclear what it will do because it's not functional just yet. However, we believe it could let users control the brightness levels of Ultra HDR images at a pixel level. We should know better when the company activates the feature from its end, says Android Authority. Finally, says 9to5 Google, Google Slides adds multi-monitor support for presentations. This seems like something that should have existed. As such, you can now view Google Slides presentations controls on your computer
Oh,
while presenting
boy.
to an audience using a connected external monitor or projection. Oh boy, indeed. What an exciting time. This is from Tech Radar. Chromebook acting weird? Try Google's new Chrome OS Sanitize
So I added
tool.
this in here. So the advantage of the Chromebook is because you don't have to worry about updates, upgrades, viruses, anything. It just happens. It's just fine, right? But what this admits is sometimes you can get an extension that's doing weird crap to you. So this is a way, it's not really viruses, but it is a new way to clean your machine without having to rebuild it. Rebuilding, by the way, takes 5 minutes. It's the easiest thing
You're
in the world.
saying, I think
Power
it's very
washing.
funny that the feature you're talking about of totally wiping it is called Power Wash.
Power wash. More power. Yeah.
Have you
So-
used this feature?
No, I haven't yet. I just put it in there. I was interested.
Interesting.
I've had a rare occasion where I go to a website and suddenly it's acting weird and some extension got in there. And I just don't put extensions in. So they're pretty much worthless anyway.
Well, that's the Google changelog. All right, we're going to go to a quick ad and then come back for your guys' picks of the week. All right, Jeff, what do you got for me as far as a pick of the week goes?
Well, I don't know if Benito, if we can play this or not. There is going to be an Australian version of The Office.
The Ozfist.
Ooh. So
I can
there's
play it, but,
there's a trailer.
There's no
There's a
audio.
trailer.
We'll do no audio. We'll MST 3K this thing.
Okay, yeah, you can almost see that. Yeah. So you can just tell it's a woman is now the main character.
Wow,
that's a
women
shift.
can do everything. Women
But-
can be terrible bosses too.
Exactly. But
It's a lot of people from the Taika Waititi friends group. There's a bunch of people from that group.
What is that?
From the Australia, New Zealand comedy.
I know a lot of these actors because I've
Yeah.
gotten really into watching Taskmaster New Zealand and Australia. So it's a lot of them. That's
Wow.
fun.
What's the one you mentioned, Benito?
You know Taika Waititi, his group of friends and creators from New Zealand and Australia.
Oh,
Who is
I didn't
that?
know
Like some of them are in Taika Waititi, I think, the
Mhm.
director.
I don't know him.
You're
by-
hipper than us.
Well, he's the
You're
guy who
hip.
directed Thor, Ragnarok, and
Oh,
What We Do in Shadows. What We Do in Shadows.
Oh. Yeah. I just am bad at people's names, to be honest.
well, there's only so many people. They're a small country, so there's only so many actors, right?
That's true.
They're in everything.
This has been a problem for Taskmaster New Zealand. They're on season 5, and they're gonna run out of New Zealand comedians quick.
And then we should mention that the Ig Nobles were held. So the Ig Nobel Prize goes to a team who found that mammals can breathe through their anuses.
That's huge.
It is. It is.
Well deserved. I saw one about scaring a cat next to a cow and determining that it made the cow produce less milk as a result. It's like they popped a balloon next to a cat, next to a cow, and it impacted the milk production. And I was like, why did I go into computer science when I could have gone into real science and done stuff like this?
That's a really great question.
So that's what I have.
Molly, do you have a pick of the week?
I do. I stumbled across a blog post, which I thought was really fascinating in the sort of intersection of technology and textile arts, I guess, which is
Ooh.
an overlap I've always been very interested in. This person was walking through an art gallery and saw this tapestry and recognized it, walking past it somehow, as a Pentium chip. It's like a computer chip that has been woven into a physical tapestry by a Navajo weaver who presented it as a gift to the American Indian Science and Engineering Society. It was like hand woven. It says in the blog post that it took to do an inch of progress. It took them a full day. And if you scroll down, they also show a comparison of the tapestry with the actual chip.
Oh, no, that's cool.
And you can see just how accurate it is. And then below that, yeah, there's like a little diagram that shows each part of the chip. Anyway, it's just such a cool project. The blog post is really cool because it goes into a long history of Navajo workers and the Pentium manufacturing, as well as some of the weaving end of it as well. So that was my pick of the week.
That is so cool. My pick of the week is a book I read on vacation. It is Cue the Sun, about the invention of reality TV by the New Yorker writer Emily Nussbaum. And I just like devoured this book. It is so well written and fascinating. I ended up, I was traveling like with my family, and I ended up like reading many passages of it out loud to all of them, many of them who have no interest in reality TV whatsoever, but who also found it fascinating because one, she's just an incredible writer and her prose is fantastic. But two, it really traces kind of the history of this medium of unscripted content from kind of the earliest days of not even candid camera, but
does it go back to Oprah?
I mean, before that, like candid microphone in the early 1900s, which was kind of like a candid camera precursor of like live prank shows that only became possible when the technology for recording equipment got portable, by which it meant instead of being 100 pounds, it was then like 20 pounds. So a guy could hide like his recording equipment on his body. Yeah. Instead of having to lug it around with the whole team. And it is so interesting. You go from like that to Survivor to The Apprentice. It is a really fascinating chronicle of like American culture, and she specifically focuses on the people involved in production and how production choices kind of shaped this whole aspect of what became like American and international identity. And I don't know, I'd highly recommend it.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's because production on reality shows are extremely cheap compared to
I mean,
why they're done. Yeah,
because they don't have writers. They have unpaid cast members, and then most of the cast members can't like work for the year after it because of the contracts they've signed. It's, I don't know.
But is it also trash? Daytime talk TV, Oprah and
I mean, yes, it specifically goes into how kind of the first, like the proto reality TV was actually, what are they called? Audience participation shows on the radio in the early 1900s, which is kind of like a proto daytime talk show where this is something that like radio announcers would really look down on. All high cultured mainstream people would stick up their noses at because they're like, oh, they're so popular, but it's really just, you know, one radio host talking to a bunch of laymen about their experiences in day-to-day life. Who would want to listen to that? And it turns out everybody would want to listen to that.
It was Queen for the Day.
Queen for the Day, yes, of course.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch The Gong Show?
Oh, yeah. And so Oprah was high tone, and then she opened the door, in my view, to trash TV. She started doing I hate my husband and people screaming at each other. And then when she saw everything that followed, and there was a lot, she suddenly got religion. And she wanted me to appear on her show when she was going to say how virtuous she was, and I wouldn't do it because I think she ruined daytime TV. So I'm not an Oprah fan.
I believe also Leo is mentioned once in this book because he appeared on one of these shows.
Really?
She briefly says like, oh, they had technology specialists like Leo Laporte on this in one line. And I was like, that's my guy.
He's following you into vacation.
I know. It was, it's a great read, even if you don't like reality TV at all. It is like an interesting look at this medium and the people and forces that shaped it. So I'd highly recommend it.
What about Cops? Does Cops count as reality TV?
Yes, Cops is in it, and there's a whole chapter dedicated to it. Because that was also a very difficult show to get made at first because it required partnering with the police department and getting kind of ride-along permissions. And at first people thought it would be like too crass, no one would want to watch it, but it became
And
such
it
a big...
turned out to be right.
It turned out to be such a big hit that then embattled police departments would use it to rehab their reputations. Like the LAPD, after the whole Rodney King incident, was like, we got to get cops over here. And it's quite dark. It's this chapter on Survivor is particularly interesting in my
Is there a
opinion.
chapter on Trump?
Yes, there's an entire chapter on The Apprentice. I think Emily Nussbaum actually was the one who broke the news of him saying the N-word in recordings, which came out in this book.
Which we thought was going to ruin his career, and now the nation shrugs.
There's, I mean, so many honestly interesting details in the Apprentice chapter about all the different people who worked on that show who basically say like, yeah, our whole job was to make this guy look like a genius, despite, you know, his kind of unpolished personality. And they're like, now we feel like we have to dedicate our lives to telling people what happened on the set because we elevated him to a status that the people who worked in the show don't believe is accurate.
I'm so glad I'm not a TV critic anymore, which sounds really snotty, but it would be really hard to keep track of a lot of this crap.
I mean, Nussbaum has to have watched like 5,000 hours of TV to have been able to
what even
write
counts
this.
as
Just
TV anymore? You know?
Well, that's
I mean,
true too. Yeah.
It's all kind of TV. TikToks are TV.
So the Emmys came on and off the other day. This is how detached I am from linear television now. I didn't know that Shogun was on.
I didn't know. I wouldn't have known it was on except for a podcast I listened to. One of the hosts has another podcast where they were talking about Shogun. And I vaguely heard it mentioned then. But
Molly,
I'm with
Benito,
you.
did you know it was on?
Did I know Shogun was on now? What do you mean?
Was on TV at all?
Oh yeah, I watched it. That was great. It was a great show.
Good. You watched it, actually. You watched
I
linear
heard
television.
about it.
Okay.
I watched it on Hulu. It was on Hulu.
Well, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's wrap things up. Thank you all for joining us. We do This Week in Google every Wednesday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2100 UTC. You can watch us stream on 7 different platforms, YouTube, Twitch, X, and 4 other platforms that I'm not going to try and name. Molly White, if folks want to keep up with you and what you're doing, where do they go to do that?
You will find me at mollywhite.net. I run Web3 is Going Just Great, which is web3isgreat.com, and I write the Citation Needed newsletter, which is citationneeded.news. And
Awesome.
everything else you can find from those places. So I trust you.
Awesome. And Jeff, anything you want to plug? Where do people go to give you your hot
Gutenberg.com.
takes?
You can get discount codes for Gutenberg and Magazine, my 2 books out now. And then as soon as my son Jake gets well from being under the weather, he'll do a website and I can get this up. But if you search for The Web We Weave from Basic Books and use the Web20 code, you can get 20% off if you pre-order.
Awesome. And you can follow me at Paris Martineau on Twitter and send me tips and story ideas at martineau.10 on Signal.
10?
Wait, is it 10 or
10.
0? Oh my God.
01.
I've had this wrong. Okay.
Oh, no,
Wait.
I'm wrong. I typed it wrong. I'm sorry, guys.
See, we know
Listen,
you better than you do.
You know me. I don't look at my screen when I'm typing or when I'm talking, so I wrote it wrong. You probably don't send tips or story ideas to Martineau10. Send it to Martineau.01 on Signal.
Some other Martineau out there is
Well,
like,
some
what
other
are all
Martin
these
out there is
messages?
I didn't know
really
that.
killing it with those tips. All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.